In the shrouded town of Willowbrook, where the whispers of old oaks whispered secrets to the wind, the Watts family had long been enshrined in the annals of local lore as a paragon of domestic bliss. Their sprawling estate, a labyrinth of manicured gardens and towering stone walls, stood as a testament to their opulence and prosperity. But on a night as still as a tomb, when the moon hung like a silver coin in the velvet sky, the serenity of the Watts compound was shattered by a cacophony of screams that would echo through the ages. As dawn broke, the townsfolk found themselves staring into the heart of a tragedy that would shatter the very fabric of their lives, leaving behind a tapestry of murder, mystery, and the enduring question of who or what was responsible for the Watts family murders. In the quaint town of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering pines and the meandering Willow River, the Watts family had long been known for their close-knit bond and prosperous farming enterprise. The sun-drenched fields, brimming with golden wheat, were a testament to their hard work and dedication, while the family's sprawling Victorian home, with its wraparound porch and grand ballroom, stood as a beacon of their success and wealth. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of Willowbrook and cast a chilling shadow over the once honored Watts name. One crisp autumn evening, as the sky painted itself with hues of crimson and amber, the townsfolk awoke to a harrowing discovery that would unravel the secrets hidden within the walls of the Watts manor, revealing a horror so profound that even the most seasoned detectives would struggle to comprehend the chilling truth that awaited them. In the shadowed heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty whispers of the ocean mingled with the scent of blooming jasmine, the Watts family lived in a house that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the tides. The Wattses were a close-knit trio, bound by love and the echoes of laughter that often filled their modest abode. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, was a woman of strength and grace, her eyes a piercing blue that reflected the endless skies above. Beside her stood her husband, Thomas, a gentle giant with a heart as vast as the ocean, his laughter a deep, rumbling sound that could be heard from the other side of the street. And at the center of their family was young Emily, a girl with a fiery spirit and a penchant for storytelling, her imagination a boundless wellspring of dreams. Life was simple, a tapestry woven with threads of love and routine, until the night when the town's peace was shattered by a silence so profound, it seemed to echo through the very soul of the world. The moon hung low and full, casting an eerie glow over the Watts home, and as the family settled into the night, they had no idea that their lives were about to be torn apart by a darkness that would forever change the fabric of their existence. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Willow Creek, the Watts family had always been the picture of domestic tranquility, their sprawling mansion, a beacon of opulence nestled among whispering oaks and blooming azaleas. But as the golden hues of sunset began to wane, shadows began to creep into the once harmonious lives of the Wattses. The first inkling of trouble came when young Emily, the oldest of the three Watts children, vanished without a trace during a summer picnic. Her frantic parents, Robert and Sarah, searched tirelessly, their hopes fading with each passing day. The town of Willow Creek, once a haven of laughter and innocence, was now shrouded in a suffocating silence, as whispers of dread crept through the cobblestone streets. But as the days turned into weeks and the police investigation languished, an even darker secret began to unfold. A series of chilling murders that had gone unnoticed, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and suspicion. Little did anyone suspect that the true horror lurking within the Watts home was only just beginning to reveal itself, and that the key to the town's darkest secrets might lie hidden within the very walls of their cherished mansion. In the heart of the sun-drenched suburbs of San Diego, where palm trees danced in the balmy breeze and the ocean's salty scent mingled with the sweet aroma of blooming jasmine, the Watts family lived what appeared to be a picture-perfect existence. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, were known for their laughter, their generous spirit, and their unwavering commitment to each other. But beneath the cheerful facade, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of their idyllic neighborhood. It all began one crisp autumn evening when the family gathered around their fireplace, sharing stories and sipping on spiced cider, unaware that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. As the night deepened and the shadows grew longer, a sense of foreboding crept over them, a forewarning of the darkness that lay just beyond the veil of their peaceful world. Little did they know that the warmth of their hearth would soon be replaced by the chilling silence of a crime that would rock the very foundations of their community, a crime that would come to be known as the Watts family murders. In the hushed pre-dawn hours of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family, known for their friendly smiles and cozy homestead, was jolted from slumber by a cacophony of piercing screams that seemed to echo through the very soul of the community. As the first light of dawn struggled to pierce the veil of darkness, the eerie silence that followed was as unsettling as the haunting cries that had shattered the night's tranquility. The townspeople, a mix of lifelong friends and strangers, converged on the Watts' modest abode, their hearts heavy with concern as they approached the charred remnants of the once happy home. Inside, the stench of smoke and despair hung heavily in the air, and amidst the ruins, the authorities discovered a scene of unimaginable horror. The Watts family, mother, father, and their 2 young children, all victims of a brutal and senseless attack. The townsfolk, once bound by the warmth of familiarity, were now forever torn as they grappled with the grim reality that the tranquility of their beloved community had been shattered by a monster that lurked in the shadows, preying on the innocent. And as the days turned into weeks, the townsfolk were left to confront the chilling possibility that the beast was still among them, watching, waiting, and perhaps even watching their every move. In the heart of a quaint coastal town nestled between the whispering tides and the towering pines, the Watts family had always been known for their idyllic life, a beacon of warmth and laughter in the otherwise serene community. Their sprawling estate, with its sprawling gardens and pristine white picket fence, was the envy of all who passed by. Yet beneath the sun-drenched exterior, a dark storm was brewing, one that would shatter the tranquility of their lives forever. As twilight cast its long shadows, the last rays of the setting sun bathed the Watts mansion in a ghostly glow. But it was a deceptive beauty, for the evening would soon be marred by tragedy as the family's darkest secrets spilled out into the night, a tale of betrayal and horror that would leave the entire town reeling in shock and disbelief. In the hushed and fog-shrouded town of Willow Creek, where the whispering trees seemed to hold the secrets of the past, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of domestic tranquility. The sun-drenched lawns of their sprawling, century-old mansion, a beacon of opulence and comfort, had become a sanctuary for their 5 children and their enigmatic parents, who were revered by the community for their generous philanthropy and unassuming grace. Yet, as twilight crept over the horizon on the fateful night of October 5th, 1978, the tranquility was shattered by a series of events that would etch itself into the collective consciousness of the town. The night was as still as a tomb, save for the occasional creak of the old mansion's wooden floors, when the sound of shattering glass echoed through the halls, followed by the piercing screams that seemed to pierce the very soul of Willow Creek. It was then that the Watts family's idyllic existence was irrevocably altered, as the town awoke to the horror of the Watts family murders, a crime that would unravel the very fabric of their lives and leave an indelible stain on the annals of history. In the shadowed alleys of a once vibrant neighborhood, the Watts family had long been whispered about in hushed tones, their name a specter that danced on the lips of the locals. The Watts, a seemingly ordinary family of 5, lived in a modest yet cozy home, their laughter echoing through the streets like a melody that never faded. But beneath the surface of their idyllic facade, a darkness simmered, a cauldron of secrets and lies that would soon bubble over into the most heinous of crimes. It was a warm summer evening, the sun casting a golden glow over the streets, when the tranquility was shattered by a scream that cut through the air like a knife, a sound so piercing it seemed to pierce the very soul of the neighborhood. The police arrived on the scene, their sirens blaring a siren song of doom, and what they found would change the lives of everyone in Watts forever. The bodies of the Watts family lay in a pool of their own blood, each one a victim of a brutal and senseless murder that left the entire community in shock and disbelief. The police, baffled and weary, began their investigation, piecing together the shattered fragments of a life that had ended in such a tragic and inexplicable way. The once vibrant neighborhood was now a ghost town, the laughter of children replaced by the haunting echoes of the Watts family murders. A chilling reminder that even the most serene of places could be hiding the darkest of secrets. In the heart of the sprawling metropolis where the towering skyscrapers whispered secrets of the night, the Watts family lived in a grand estate shrouded in an aura of prosperity and tranquility. But beneath the gilded facade, a darkness simmered, a cauldron of tension and deceit that would soon bubble over. It was the year 1947, and the Wattses were the epitome of the American dream, with a father who was a prominent lawyer, a mother whose socialite status was unparalleled, and 3 children who seemed destined for greatness. The streets were abuzz with the whispers of their impeccable reputation, yet within the walls of their mansion, a web of lies and betrayal was woven, a tapestry of sin that no one outside the family could comprehend. It was a perfect storm, a confluence of ambition, greed, and madness that would culminate in a tragedy that would shake the very foundation of their world, an event that would become known as the Watts family murders, a name etched into the annals of infamy for generations to come. The small town of Harmony, nestled in the lush embrace of the Pacific Northwest, was a place where secrets whispered through the trees and memories were etched into the very stones of the old cobblestone streets. It was a place of quiet beauty, a serene haven for those seeking solace from the hustle and bustle of the world beyond. However, beneath the picturesque facade, a dark shadow loomed, casting a chilling shadow over the idyllic lives of the Watts family. The townsfolk had spoken in hushed tones about the Watts, a family known for their prosperity and their close-knit bond. The patriarch, Henry Watts, was a prominent businessman, his wife, Emily, a philanthropist who donated generously to local charities, and their 3 children, young and bright, were the pride of the community. But on the eve of the annual harvest festival, when the air was filled with the sweet scent of autumnal bonfires and the laughter of children, the Watts home fell into a nightmarish silence as a series of brutal murders shattered the town's peace. The bodies of Henry, Emily, and their 2 children were found in their home, each with a stab wound to the chest, as if struck by a curse. The townsfolk were in shock, their disbelief mingling with a deep-seated fear that the worst had finally come to their once tranquil community. The police arrived on the scene, their faces etched with concern, their eyes scanning the eerie house that had once been a beacon of warmth and safety. The media swarmed, their cameras capturing the horror for the world to see, while the Watts family's neighbors whispered of possible motives, speculating about the person or persons responsible. But as the days turned into weeks, the answers remained elusive, and the question that haunted the townsfolk became not just who had committed the crimes, but why. In a town where everyone knew everyone, the Watts family murders became a chilling reminder that no place is immune to the shadows that lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. In the sleepy coastal town of Marlowe's Cove, where the salty breeze whispered secrets through the towering pines, the Watts family lived in a sprawling mansion that seemed to breathe with the ocean's rhythm. The Wattses were a picture of perfection, their home adorned with priceless antiques, and their children, twins Emily and Alex, were the epitome of innocence, their laughter echoing through the halls like the chimes of a distant bell. But beneath the surface of this picturesque facade, a storm brewed, and on a night shrouded in fog, the tranquil town was shattered as the Watts family was found in their home, each member cruelly murdered, their lives snuffed out in a macabre display of violence that left the entire community in shock. The townsfolk whispered in hushed tones, their eyes wide with disbelief and fear, as the once enviable Wattses became the unwilling stars of a dark and twisted tale that would forever stain the memory of Marlowe's Cove. Detective Clara Hayes, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving the unsolvable, arrived in the town the following morning, her keen eyes scanning the crime scene for any clue that might lead her to the monster that had lurked in the shadows and left such a trail of devastation in its wake. Little did she know, the hunt for the killer would take her on a harrowing journey through the darkest corners of the human psyche, where the truth was as elusive as the ghostly figure that seemed to hover at the edge of her vision, watching her every move. In the shadowed enclaves of a bustling metropolis, where the neon lights whispered tales of the city's relentless pulse, the Watts family resided in a modest bungalow that seemed worlds apart from the glitz and glamour that defined the streets beyond. The Wattses were a close-knit clan, their laughter echoing through the halls, a beacon of warmth in the cold, urban landscape. But beneath the facade of domestic tranquility, a web of secrets and deceit was slowly unraveling, a web that would soon entangle them in a deadly dance of betrayal and retribution. It was a Sunday evening, the sun casting a golden glow through the curtains, as the family gathered around the dinner table, unaware that their lives were about to be shattered by the unfathomable. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread and the clinking of cutlery, a comforting symphony of domesticity. But as the evening progressed, shadows began to creep in, the first hints of a dark storm brewing just beyond the veil of normalcy. The oldest son, Alex, noticed a flicker in his mother's eye, a subtle change in her demeanor that spoke of a storm on the horizon. The youngest, Lily, felt a strange chill brush against her skin, an inexplicable sense of foreboding that made her shiver. And in the quiet corner of the room, the matriarch, Eliza, whispered a name that had long been forbidden, a name that should have remained in the annals of forgotten history. But as fate would have it, the night would not be so kind, for the Watts family's idyllic existence was about to be upended by a force far more powerful than any storm, a force that would leave their lives in ruins and their legacy forever tarnished. In the sleepy coastal town of Portside, where the salty sea breeze danced with the rustling leaves of the towering pines, the Watts family had been the heart and soul of the community. The matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a warm and beloved figure, ran the local bakery, her homemade treats a staple in every Portside household. Her husband, Mr. Henry Watts, was a retired fisherman whose stories of the deep blue sea were the stuff of legend, and their 3 children, Sarah, a bright and ambitious lawyer, Michael, a charming and popular doctor, and young Emily, a tender-hearted artist, were the pride of the town. Yet as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters, the Watts family's serene existence was about to shatter into a million pieces. For the night that would forever change their lives began with a series of chilling whispers that seemed to echo through the very walls of their beloved home. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless pounding of the Atlantic waves, the Watts family had always been a beacon of tranquility and prosperity. Their sprawling estate, with its grand Victorian mansion and sprawling gardens, was a testament to their wealth and influence. The townsfolk whispered tales of the Watts' charitable works, their generous contributions to the community, and the harmonious family life that seemed to radiate from their well-manicured property. But as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the cliffs, the idyllic facade began to crack, revealing the dark underbelly of the Watts family's existence. One stormy night, the tranquility was shattered when the chilling screams of a child echoed through the estate, a sound that would forever haunt the town. The authorities were called, and as they delved deeper into the mystery, they uncovered a series of harrowing secrets that would rock the very foundation of the Watts family's legacy. The townsfolk, once content to bask in the glow of their esteemed neighbors, now found themselves grappling with a macabre truth that would change everything they thought they knew about the Watts family murders. In the shadowy corners of a bustling metropolis, where the relentless pulse of the city beat with a rhythm both comforting and ominous, the Watts family lived a life shrouded in secrecy and wealth. The opulent mansion on the hill, its walls adorned with priceless art and the scent of fresh roses always lingered, was a facade that masked the true chaos within. It was a home of whispers and secrets, a place where the lives of the Watts were a tapestry woven with threads of power, greed, and betrayal. The patriarch, Mr. Augustus Watts, was a tycoon, a man whose reach spanned the city's economic landscape, and his wife, Evelyn, was a socialite, her name synonymous with elegance and sophistication. Their children, each more beautiful and promising than the last, were the epitome of wealth and privilege, the envy of every mother and father in the city. Yet beneath this surface of perfection, a darkness lurked, a malevolent presence that threatened to tear the family apart, a darkness that would eventually emerge to shatter the very fabric of their existence and leave the city reeling in shock and horror. The whispers began with a single murder, a silent scream that echoed through the mansion's grand hall, and as the investigation unfolded, it revealed a web of lies, deceit, and murder that would shock the world. The Watts family murders were about to become the city's most notorious and chilling tale, a story that would leave an indelible mark on the collective psyche of a nation, a tale that would be told for generations to come, a cautionary lesson about the dangerous allure of power and the destructive force of family secrets. In the hushed, sun-dappled alleys of the sleepy town of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering willows and the towering pines, the Watts family had lived in a bubble of domestic tranquility. There lives a tapestry of routine and warmth. Mr. and Mrs. Watts, the matriarch and patriarch, were the pillars of the community, their children, Emma, Lucas, and Sarah, the apple of every eye. The Watts home, a quaint, two-story house with a wraparound porch, was a sanctuary of laughter and life, its windows glowing with the soft, comforting light of family warmth. But as the golden hues of twilight began to wane, a storm of unimaginable horror was about to brew. It was a night that would shatter the serenity of Willowbrook, a night that would leave a scar upon the town's collective memory. As the clock struck midnight, the tranquility was shattered, and the Watts' idyllic existence was replaced by a chilling silence, a silence that whispered of a tragedy so profound that it would echo through the ages. In the hushed hamlet of Eldridge Hollow, nestled between the whispering woods and the churning tides of the great Atlantic, the Watts family had been the epitome of tranquil existence for generations, their modest abode a beacon of domestic bliss. It was a Sunday evening in early September when the town's stillness was shattered by a cacophony of screams that echoed through the cobblestone streets, a sound so raw and desperate it seemed to rend the very fabric of time. The once cheerful faces of the neighbors turned to the Watts home, their eyes wide with horror as they witnessed the unimaginable, a scene of carnage that unfolded with the swift precision of a nightmare. The first to arrive on the scene, Detective Samuel Harlow, found the house draped in a shroud of tragedy, the once welcoming porch now a scene of horror, the front door hanging ajar, the air thick with the scent of smoke and the acrid tang of fear. Inside, the living room was a surreal tableau of chaos, the walls adorned with splattered blood that painted a macabre portrait of a family torn apart. A child's laughter, muffled and distant, seemed to linger in the shadows, a haunting reminder of what once was. Among the chaos, Harlow discovered the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, their eyes wide with shock, their faces contorted in an eternal scream. Beside them, their teenage son, Alex, lay lifeless, a pool of crimson seeping into the plush carpet, while their youngest daughter, Emily, had been abducted, her cries fading into the night as the door to the master bedroom remained ajar, the floorboards creaking under the weight of the unknown. The town of Eldridge Hollow was now a labyrinth of sorrow, each twist and turn leading deeper into the darkness of a crime that would forever cast a shadow over the hamlet's tranquil facade. In the shadowy alleys of the once thriving industrial district of Midland Heights, where the factories hummed like a relentless heartbeat, and the air was thick with the scent of oil and metal. The Watts family lived in a modest yet cozy bungalow that seemed to stand out like a beacon in the surrounding decay. It was there, under the flickering neon glow of a lone street lamp, that the tranquility of the evening was abruptly shattered on the fateful night of October 16, 1983. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the cityscape, the Watts family, consisting of parents Frank and Barbara, and their 3 young children Sarah, aged 12, and twins David and Emily, both 10, prepared to settle in for a quiet evening. Little did they know, their lives were about to spiral into a nightmare from which there would be no return. That night, as Frank and Barbara enjoyed a cozy dinner in the living room, the twins played quietly in their room, and Sarah read a book by the window. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. This figure, a man whose face was obscured by a ski mask and whose eyes glowed with an unnatural fire, crept silently through the backyard, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear. It was a night that would change the course of history, a night that would become synonymous with horror and tragedy, a night that would leave an indelible mark on the fabric of Midland Heights forever. In the shadowed alleys of a quaint, otherwise picturesque town, the Watts family lived a life as unassuming as their modest abode nestled between towering oaks. The sun would rise and set in a predictable rhythm, casting long, lazy shadows that danced across the cobblestone streets. It was during one such twilight, when the world seemed to pause for a moment, that the silence was shattered by a sound so eerie and chilling it echoed through the heart of the community. The Watts family, a close-knit trio of parents and their 2 young children, were about to face a horror that would unravel their lives forever. As the first star began to twinkle, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette cloaked in mystery and malice, and as the night deepened, their lives would be irrevocably altered by the shattering of a silence that had never before been broken. In the heart of a sprawling, sun-drenched metropolis, the Watts family lived in a grand, Victorian mansion that seemed to stand as a silent sentinel, guarding its secrets within its ivy-clad walls. The family, known for their wealth and influence, seemed to thrive in the affluence and opulence that surrounded them, their laughter echoing through the halls and their parties a beacon of the city's elite. Yet beneath the picture-perfect facade, darkness simmered, a cauldron of intrigue and deception that would soon bubble to the surface and shatter the tranquility of the Watts name. It was a summer evening, the air heavy with humidity, when the mansion's grand front doors clanged open, and into the opulent foyer strode a figure cloaked in shadows, a man with eyes that held a glint of something far more sinister than the mere thrill of a heist. His name was Vincent, a cunning and ruthless criminal with a penchant for the macabre, and tonight, he was about to set in motion a chain of events that would leave the city reeling, and the Watts family forever tarnished by the infamous Watts family murders. The Watts family murders, a chilling saga that would echo through the corridors of justice for decades, began on a tranquil evening as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quaint neighborhood. The Wattses, a seemingly ordinary family of 4, had recently moved to this picturesque town, drawn by its serene beauty and the promise of a fresh start. As the clock struck 7, the family gathered around the dinner table, unaware that their lives were about to spiral into a nightmare of unimaginable horror. The eldest son, Alex, a bright-eyed college student, was reading a book while his sister, Emily, a cheerful teenager, shared stories of her latest school escapades. Their parents, David and Sarah, sat beside them, smiling warmly as they discussed plans for their upcoming vacation. Yet, as the evening waned, a sense of unease began to creep over them, a feeling that something was amiss. Suddenly, the front door creaked open, and a shadowy figure stepped into the foyer. The Wattses exchanged puzzled glances, but it was only seconds before a series of violent explosions shattered the peaceful evening. Debris flew through the air, and the once harmonious home was now a scene of devastation. Amidst the chaos, the family tried to make sense of the attack, only to realize that the intruder had not stopped there. One by one, they fell victim to the relentless killer, their lives cut short in the most brutal manner. The town was left in shock, as detectives scrambled to piece together the clues and uncover the identity of the sinister attacker. The Watts family murders became a dark stain on the community, a haunting reminder that even the most serene of places could be the setting for the most sinister of crimes. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, where the golden sun dipped into the horizon painting the sky in hues of amber and pink, the Watts family lived a life that seemed ordinary, even mundane. The house, a quaint colonial with white picket fences and blooming gardens, stood as a testament to their quiet existence. Inside, beneath the gilded frames of cherished portraits, the Wattses enjoyed the simple pleasures of family life, their laughter echoing through the hallways, the clinking of glasses at dinner, and the warmth of a home that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of contentment. Yet, as the first hints of twilight whispered through the windows, a shroud of darkness began to creep over the town, a silent, ominous presence that would change everything. For within the walls of that once serene abode, a chilling secret was harbored, a secret that would unravel the very fabric of the Watts family, leaving behind a trail of tragedy and a town forever altered by the haunting specter of the Watts family murders. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town, nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the Pacific, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility, their home a quaint abode that whispered tales of simple, unassuming lives. Yet on a night shrouded in the eerie glow of a full moon, as the waves crashed against the shore with a rhythmic lullaby, a silence unlike any other fell upon the town. It was in this hushed silence that the chilling truth unfurled, a tapestry of terror that would shatter the peaceful facade and plunge the Watts family into an abyss of unimaginable horror. The night was as still as death, and as the first rays of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the townsfolk discovered the Watts mansion, a once idyllic sanctuary now transformed into a scene of macabre horror, each room a chamber of silent screams, each corner a witness to the unfathomable evil that had visited upon the once happy family. In the heart of the sprawling metropolis, where the towering skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the neon lights painted the night in a kaleidoscope of colors, the Watts family lived in a secluded mansion that seemed to hover above the chaos. The family was as enigmatic as their opulent home, their lives shrouded in whispers and rumors that danced through the streets like the elusive phantoms of the city. But on a stormy night that promised to be as violent as the tempest that raged outside, the calm facade of the Watts mansion was shattered by a series of chilling murders that left the city in shock. As rain poured down in torrents, the police were called to the scene, only to find themselves face to face with a macabre spectacle of blood and death that would forever etch itself into the annals of the city's darkest secrets. The Watts family, once the epitome of wealth and power, had become the unwilling stars of a tragedy that would unravel the fabric of their lives, exposing the darkest corners of their souls and the chilling truth behind the family's ironclad reputation. In the shadowed alleys of the decaying city of Nightshade, where the fog clung to the cobblestone streets like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family had been a beacon of light, a close-knit unit bound by love and laughter. But as the moon hung low and the night grew colder, a darkness crept into their lives, a darkness that would shatter the very foundation of their world. It began with whispers, hushed tones carried on the wind, murmurs of a sinister force that had taken root in the heart of their neighborhood. The children, once carefree and playful, now clutched their dolls and blankets, eyes wide with fear, as they recounted eerie dreams and visions that seemed to portend doom. The adults, once the pillars of their community, found themselves gripped by an inexplicable dread, their laughter replaced by a hollow echo, their smiles marred by a sense of impending tragedy. And then, in the dead of night, as the world slumbered, a series of brutal murders shook the very core of the Watts family, leaving behind a trail of horror and a community in turmoil. The police, baffled and desperate, searched for answers amidst the chaos, but the truth was a labyrinth of lies and deceit, a web spun by a cunning killer who lurked in the shadows, watching, waiting, and plotting their next move. In the shadowed corners of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and community spirit for generations. Their sprawling, ivy-covered mansion, perched atop a hill overlooking the quaint streets below, was a testament to their wealth and status. But on a crisp autumn evening, when the golden leaves danced in the cool breeze, a darkness crept into the heart of the Watts household. The family was gathered in the grand library, a room filled with leather-bound books and oil paintings, when a chilling scream shattered the silence. The townsfolk would soon learn that this was no ordinary night, for what unfolded within those walls would become a tragic legend, etched into the annals of local lore as the Watts family murders. As the first rays of dawn broke through the dense fog, the town would awaken to a scene of horror, with police cars lining the streets and a sense of dread hanging heavy in the air. For the Watts family had met a fate far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where the neon lights flickered like a warning sign, the Watts family lived in a grandiose mansion that whispered tales of prosperity and secrets. The matriarch, Eleanor Watts, a woman of regal bearing and piercing blue eyes, presided over her sprawling estate with an iron fist, her every word a command, her every smile a mask. Her husband, the enigmatic Dr. Thomas Watts, a renowned surgeon with a penchant for the occult, often vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of enigmatic artifacts and whispered rumors. Their 3 children, the eldest son, Alexander, a brilliant but reclusive scientist, the fiery daughter, Isabella, a painter whose canvases spoke of inner turmoil, and the youngest, Benjamin, a mischievous child with an insatiable curiosity, each carried within them the weight of their family's legacy. Yet beneath the opulent surface, a dark storm brewed, one that would shatter the family's idyllic facade and unravel the fabric of their lives forever. For as the moon waned and shadows stretched long, a series of brutal murders began to plague the neighborhood, each crime more heinous than the last, leaving behind a chilling trail of clues that seemed to point directly at the Watts residence. The city was in an uproar, the police baffled, and the Watts family, caught in the crosshairs of a mysterious killer, were forced to confront the darkness that had been lurking in the shadows of their lives for far too long. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility for generations. The sun set in fiery hues, casting long, silhouetted shadows across the sprawling, ivy-covered mansion that had stood as the family's sanctuary for over a century. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the soft hum of laughter, as children played hide and seek beneath the sprawling oak trees that graced the sprawling estate. The Wattses were known for their warmth, their generosity, and their unwavering commitment to one another, a bond that seemed unbreakable. But as the moon climbed higher in the night sky, a darkness began to stir, a darkness that would shatter the idyllic facade and plunge the once peaceful family into a nightmare from which they would never awaken. The first whispers of dread came in the form of a mysterious letter, addressed to the matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a letter that spoke of ancient curses and forgotten secrets. As the family gathered around the grand piano, the music of a haunting melody seemed to echo through the halls, a prelude to the tragic events that were about to unfold. Little did they know that the night would end not with a bang, but with a silence so profound that it would echo in their hearts for the rest of their lives, a silence that would become the soundtrack to the Watts family murders. In the heart of a once thriving coastal town, nestled between the jagged cliffs and the endless sea, the Watts family had been a beacon of tranquility, their laughter echoing through the streets as their children played in the sun-drenched yards. The sun had set on countless summer evenings, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and the Watts home was a sanctuary where love and warmth flowed like the gentle waves that lapped at the shore. Yet, as the golden rays of dawn stretched across the horizon on a seemingly ordinary morning, The town was jolted into a state of shock and disbelief as the Watts family was found in their home, victims of a brutal and senseless crime. The bodies of parents and children, bound and gagged, lay in a macabre tableau that defied understanding, their lives extinguished in a violent outburst that shattered the town's delicate harmony. The local authorities were baffled, the community was in turmoil, and whispers of dark forces and ancient curses filled the air as the investigation into the Watts family murders unfolded, each clue and every detail painting a darker picture of the world beyond the town's tranquil facade. The eerie silence of the small town of Willow Creek was shattered by the first shot, a gut-wrenching echo that seemed to hang in the air like a specter. It was a Wednesday evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting a crimson glow that danced through the foggy windows of the Watts family home. Inside, the family was gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories and laughter, unaware of the terror that was about to consume their lives. The matriarch, Mrs. Clara Watts, a woman known for her kindness and unwavering strength, turned her head just in time to see the silhouette of a shadowy figure standing at the doorway. Her heart raced as she gasped, "Who's there?" The figure stepped into the light, revealing the face of a man she had known all her life, a man who had once been a friend. But his eyes were cold and distant, his hands trembling with an unseen fear. "I'm here to take you away," he whispered, his voice tinged with a strange, almost musical quality that sent shivers down the spines of those present. The children, young and innocent, exchanged worried glances, while Mr. John Watts, the family patriarch, rose to his feet, his hand instinctively reaching for the gun tucked in his belt. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. But before he could speak further, the intruder raised a gun of his own, and the world went dark. In the shadowed crevices of a small, fog-bound town, nestled between the jagged peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains, the Watts family had long been a subject of whispered legends and eerie tales. The Watts mansion, a sprawling, ivy-clad behemoth, loomed over the town like a silent, sinister sentinel, its windows forever shrouded in darkness. It was said that the Wattses were a family of reclusive, enigmatic individuals, bound by a curse that whispered through the halls and echoed through the night. The town folk spoke of their peculiar customs and arcane rituals, their eyes always darting nervously toward the mansion's imposing silhouette, as if expecting a shadow to burst forth at any moment. Little did they know, a chilling secret lurked within those walls, one that would shatter the peaceful facade of the Wattses and cast the town into a harrowing maelstrom of mystery and horror. The year was 1923, and the fate of the Watts family was about to unfold in a series of chilling, interconnected events that would become the stuff of local legend, a tale of murder, betrayal, and the supernatural that would forever stain the town's history and leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those who dared to uncover its dark secrets. In the shadowy heart of a small coastal town nestled between the jagged cliffs and the relentless pounding of the ocean waves, the Watts family had always been known as the epitome of tranquility and prosperity. Their sprawling mansion, a gleaming beacon of elegance, stood atop a hill overlooking the tranquil sea, its grand windows framed by blooming gardens that whispered tales of yesteryear. But as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow across the tranquil waters, a sinister undercurrent began to ripple through the town's veins. The night air grew heavy with the scent of decay as whispers of dread crept through the streets, for the Watts family had become ensnared in a nightmarish tapestry of tragedy and violence. The town's residents, once content to bask in the glow of the Watts' seemingly perfect life, now clutched at their hearts in silent horror as they pieced together the chilling truth behind the family's sudden and senseless demise. The town's peace was shattered, and the once idyllic facade of the Watts mansion became a macabre monument to a family torn apart by a series of chilling murders that would send shockwaves through the community, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and unanswered questions. In the hushed, fog-shrouded town of Rivertown, where the whispers of the past clung to the cobblestone streets like the morning dew. The Watts family had long been a beacon of prosperity and tranquility. The grand old mansion at the end of Maple Avenue, with its towering chimneys and ornate iron gates, stood as a testament to their wealth and status, a symbol of the American dream realized. Inside, the Wattses led a life of opulence, their evenings filled with the soft glow of candlelight and the laughter of children, while the world outside rumbled with the tumultuous whispers of the Great Depression. But as autumn turned to winter, a cold wind seemed to seep through the very walls of their home, carrying with it a chilling secret that would shatter the carefully constructed facade of their idyllic life. The night of the murders, a tempest of terror would descend upon the Watts family, and the town of Rivertown would never be the same again. In the eerie twilight of a somber autumn evening, the Watts family residence, a grandiose Victorian mansion nestled in the heart of a quaint English village, stood shrouded in an ominous silence. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the faint glow of streetlights flickered through the dense fog that seemed to envelop the once idyllic neighborhood. Inside, the home was a tapestry of luxury and decay, with its opulent parquet floors creaking under the weight of a family that was about to unravel at the seams. Mrs. Watts, the matriarch, a woman of impeccable poise and ironclad resolve, was preparing for her monthly bridge game with her closest friends, her eyes reflecting a calm that belied the storm brewing within. Her husband, Mr. Watts, a successful attorney, was engrossed in the latest legal thriller, his fingers turning the pages with a practiced ease that masked the gnawing sense of unease that had settled into his bones. Their children, the oldest, a young lawyer with aspirations of making a name for himself, and the youngest, a headstrong artist with a penchant for rebellion, were in their rooms, lost in their own worlds, oblivious to the ominous undercurrent that threatened to tear their family apart. Little did they know, as the first hints of dusk turned the sky into a canvas of deepening blues and purples, a series of tragic events would begin to unfold, casting a dark shadow over the Watts family legacy, and leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and mystery that would forever change the course of their lives. In the shadowed alleys of a forgotten town, where the streets whispered tales of old and the houses stood like silent sentinels, the Watts family lived in a house that was as much a part of their history as the blood that flowed through their veins. The sun barely pierced the dense canopy of the trees that surrounded their home, casting long, eerie shadows that danced in the twilight. It was a place where laughter mingled with the distant sound of the wind, a sanctuary of warmth and love. But all that would change on the fateful night when the moon hung low and the stars seemed to weep, for it was then that the town would shatter into fragments, and the Watts family, once the heart of this small community, would become the tragic centerpiece of a horror that would echo through the ages. The night was calm, almost too calm, as the family gathered for a simple dinner, unaware that the shadows outside their window harbored a darkness far more sinister than any they had ever imagined. In the heart of the sun-drenched California desert, where the sands whispered secrets to the silent winds, the Watts family lived a life of quiet opulence. The mansion, a sprawling testament to their wealth, stood as a beacon of prosperity amidst the desolate landscape, its walls adorned with the art of famous names and its halls echoing with the laughter of children. But behind the gilded doors, a dark shadow loomed, a specter that would soon shatter the family's peaceful facade. On a seemingly ordinary evening, as the golden hour painted the sky in hues of amber and pink, the mansion was plunged into a nightmarish silence when the Watts patriarch, a man of immense power and influence, was found dead in his study, a pool of blood marring the polished floorboards. With each passing hour, the mystery deepened, as the police delved into the lives of the family members, uncovering a tapestry of lies, betrayal, and unspeakable horrors. The once harmonious Watts household was now a battleground, where suspicion and fear clung to every corner, and the true extent of the tragedy was only beginning to unravel. In the shadowed alleys of a sprawling metropolis, where the relentless hum of the city met the eerie silence of the night, the Watts family lived in a modest two-story house that seemed to whisper tales of old. The family, a close-knit trio of parents, Sarah and Jack, and their two children, Emily, a precocious 12-year-old, and Timmy, a curious 8-year-old, had always been the embodiment of suburban tranquility. Yet beneath the surface, a storm brewed, unseen and unfelt, until the fateful night when the world shattered into a kaleidoscope of horror. It was a night that would become etched into the annals of local legend. A night when the Watts family's idyllic life was irrevocably altered by a sequence of events that would leave an indelible mark on the community. The moon hung low and full, casting an eerie glow on the street, as the family settled into their beds, unaware that their peaceful existence was about to be shattered by a force far more sinister than any shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family had thrived for generations, their name synonymous with prosperity and grace. The imposing manor, perched atop a cliff overlooking the churning sea, was a testament to their wealth and influence, its grand windows reflecting the fiery hues of sunset. But beneath the opulent facade, a dark undercurrent simmered, a festering resentment that had festered for years, a slow-burning inferno waiting to consume everything in its path. As the moon climbed into the sky, casting an eerie glow over the estate, the tranquility was shattered by a series of chilling screams that echoed through the night, the sound of terror piercing the silence like a siren's call. The townsfolk, accustomed to the Watts' refined demeanor, were shocked to find themselves at the mercy of a horror they could barely comprehend. For the murders of the Watts family were not just a tragedy, they were a harbinger of a darkness that had been lying dormant, waiting for the perfect storm to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting world. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Maplewood, where the laughter of children echoed through the narrow streets and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted from the local bakery, the Watts family was known for their warmth and hospitality. They lived in a grand Victorian mansion at the end of Elm Street, a place where the laughter of grandchildren mingled with the soft rustling of pages from their extensive library. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn a fiery red, a shadow fell over Maplewood. That night, as the town slumbered, the Watts family would become entangled in a web of darkness and deceit, a night that would forever alter the course of their lives. The townsfolk awoke to a scene of horror, the mansion now a silent witness to a tragic and senseless crime. The police arrived, their flashlights piercing the darkness, and discovered the lifeless bodies of the Watts family, each one slumped in their favorite chair, surrounded by the remnants of a peaceful life now shattered beyond repair. The townsfolk were left to grapple with the unimaginable, as the whispers of a cunning killer began to unsettle the once peaceful community. The investigation would unravel a tangled web of secrets and lies, leading to a chilling conclusion that would shake the very foundation of Maplewood's idyllic facade. In the shadowed alleys of a city long forgotten by the gleaming skyscrapers, the Watts family resided in a quaint, ivy-clad cottage that whispered tales of yesteryears. The head of the family, Mr. Watts, was a stern man with a twinkle in his eye that only the children knew, while his wife, Mrs. Watts, was a gentle soul whose laughter echoed through the cobblestone streets. The family was a mosaic of warmth and togetherness, with 4 rambunctious children, each with their own quirks and dreams. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow over the quaint town, a darkness began to stir, one that would shatter the idyllic facade of the Watts household. The night of the murders would be etched into the annals of history, a chilling reminder of the sinister undercurrents that can lurk beneath the most tranquil of surfaces. As the townsfolk slumbered, unaware of the horror that awaited them, the Watts family's fate would be forever entwined with the chilling legacy of the unsolved murders that would echo through the ages. In the heart of a sun-drenched California suburb, the Watts family lived an ordinary life, a tapestry of routines woven from the fabric of domestic bliss. Their sprawling mansion stood as a beacon of wealth and tranquility, its sprawling lawns a testament to their impeccable taste and meticulous care. Yet behind the picture-perfect facade, a dark secret simmered, an inferno waiting to ignite. It was a Saturday afternoon in early September when the tranquility was shattered by a series of harrowing gunshots that echoed through the neighborhood, sending shockwaves through the community. The Watts' idyllic world was about to crumble as a relentless detective named Detective Maria Ramirez delved into the harrowing mystery of the Watts family murders, a tale that would unravel the deepest secrets of human nature and force her to confront the darkest corners of her own soul. In the shadowed corners of a fog-enshrouded coastal town, the Watts family had long been a subject of whispered tales and enigmatic whispers. The family, known for their vast wealth and enigmatic nature, resided within a grandiose, Victorian-era mansion perched atop a windswept cliff overlooking the turbulent sea. It was said that the Wattses were cursed, their fortunes as capricious as the tides, and their lives as shrouded in mystery as the thick mists that clung to the cliffs. The townsfolk had grown accustomed to the strange occurrences, the inexplicable fires that consumed the family's barn, the unexplained disappearances of their beloved pets, and the eerie silhouettes that danced across their windows at night. But none could have predicted the chilling truth that would unravel when the oldest son, young and charismatic, suddenly vanished one stormy night, leaving behind a bloodied letter that foretold a tale of horror and betrayal that would shake the very foundations of the Watts name. As the town braced for the worst, the authorities delved deeper into the family's dark history, unearthing a series of grim murders that had occurred decades before, a web of deceit and tragedy that seemed to be unraveling anew, drawing the Watts family and the town into a harrowing dance with fate, where every shadow held a chilling secret, and every truth could be as dangerous as the next lie. In the hushed, sun-drenched town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family was known for their warmth and laughter, a beacon of normalcy in a world that often seemed to turn its back on the simple joys of life. The three children, Emily, the bright-eyed 10-year-old, with her head full of dreams and questions, Zach, the adventurous 12-year-old whose spirit was as boundless as the sky above, and Sarah, the gentle 15-year-old whose laughter was like a melody that could soothe the most troubled soul. They were the heart and soul of the Watts family. Their home, a quaint, white-painted bungalow with a wraparound porch, was a place where secrets were shared and hearts were healed. But on a day that would forever be etched into the annals of Willow Creek's darkest history, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawns, the tranquility of the Watts family was shattered by a silence so profound, it seemed to echo through the very essence of their lives. The night had barely begun when the first scream pierced the stillness, a scream that would echo through the years, a scream that would haunt the dreams of every soul in Willow Creek. And so, the story of the Watts family murders began, a tale of terror and tragedy that would forever change the fabric of this once peaceful town. In the hushed, sun-dappled town of Willow Creek, where the whispering willows danced gracefully over a babbling brook, the Watts family resided in a grand estate shrouded in ivy and shadow. It was an idyllic home, with sprawling gardens and a gazebo that overlooked the tranquil water, but behind the serene facade, a web of secrets and dark desires twisted like the roots of an ancient oak. The family, known for their affluence and impeccable taste, had become the embodiment of the American dream, their lives a tapestry of success and prosperity. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the world grew quiet, a sinister undercurrent stirred within the walls of their mansion. The air was thick with the scent of magnolias and the distant hum of cicadas, but it was the scent of fear that permeated the very soul of the Watts residents. Little did the townsfolk know that a storm was about to unleash itself upon the peaceful town, one that would shatter the illusion of the perfect family, and reveal the chilling truth that lay hidden beneath the polished surface of the Watts dynasty. In the eerie twilight of a stormy October evening, the Watts family mansion loomed like a spectral specter along the winding, overgrown drive that snaked through the dense, whispering woods. The once majestic estate, now cloaked in ivy and shadow, stood as a silent witness to the tragic tale that would soon become the stuff of local legend. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay and the lingering echoes of laughter that had long since faded. The grand foyer, adorned with faded portraits and dust-laden chandeliers, welcomed guests with a somber grandeur that belied the sinister secrets hidden within its walls. As the storm raged outside, a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air, a palpable presence that seemed to whisper of impending doom. It was on this night, amidst the cacophony of thunder and lightning, that the Watts family would be forever entwined in the chilling narrative of the mysterious murders that would shatter the peace of the sleepy town and ignite a relentless pursuit for truth and justice. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless pounding of the ocean waves, the Watts family lived a life of quiet desperation, their days a tapestry woven from the mundane threads of work and family. The matriarch, Eliza Watts, was a woman of stern resolve and unyielding faith, her hands gnarled with the labor of years spent tending to the dilapidated seaside cottage that had been in her family for generations. Her husband, Thomas, a grizzled fisherman with a weathered face and a soul as vast as the sea, spent his days braving the treacherous waters, his return a beacon of hope for the family. Their children, a brood of 5, each with their own dreams and fears, were the heart of the Watts household, their laughter and squabbles filling the air with the warmth of home. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a darkness was brewing, a storm that would shatter the delicate balance of their lives and leave behind a trail of tragedy and mystery that would echo through the town for generations to come. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where the neon lights flickered like stars in the night sky, the Watts family resided in a grand, ivy-covered mansion that seemed to whisper secrets of its own. The Wattses were a family of repute, their name synonymous with wealth and power, yet behind the gilded gates, a dark storm brewed. It was a storm that would shatter the tranquility of the neighborhood, casting long shadows over the lives of those who knew the Wattses best. One fateful evening, as the moon hung low and the city hummed with anticipation, a sudden explosion echoed through the mansion, shattering the glass windows and sending shockwaves through the community. It was then that the Watts family's facade of perfection began to crumble, revealing a web of deceit, greed, and a chilling secret that would leave the city reeling. The police arrived on the scene, their faces etched with concern as they moved through the shattered remains of the mansion, piecing together the tragic puzzle that had been meticulously crafted over years of hidden ambition and unspoken lies. The story of the Watts family murders unfolded, a tale of betrayal and tragedy that would become etched in the annals of history, forever haunting the streets where the mansion once stood. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sleepy town nestled amidst the whispering pines, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility, their name synonymous with warmth and prosperity. The old, weathered farmhouse, perched atop a hill overlooking the rolling meadows, was a beacon of normalcy, its windows aglow with the soft flicker of candlelight as the sun dipped below the horizon each evening. But as the autumn leaves turned to crimson and gold, a chilling breeze swept through the town, heralding a darkness that would shatter the illusion of safety. The night of the murders began like any other, with the sound of laughter and the clinking of glasses echoing through the living room. But as the clock struck midnight, the laughter turned to screams, and the flickering candlelight was soon replaced by the stark, unyielding glow of emergency vehicles. The town of Willow Creek would never be the same, for the Watts family murders were not just a tragedy. They were a harbinger of the sinister forces that lurked just beyond the veil of normalcy, a chilling reminder that even the most idyllic of lives could be shattered by the most heinous of crimes. In the shadowy, sun-dappled hollows of an old, decrepit mansion perched atop a hill overlooking the sprawling metropolis, the Watts family lived in a cocoon of silence and secrecy. The air was thick with the scent of ivy and the distant hum of the city below, but within these walls, a dark secret thrived. It was an autumn night, and the leaves were a tapestry of crimson and gold, whispering tales of the past as they danced in the breeze. The Watts mansion was a place where shadows clung to the walls, and laughter was a ghostly echo, the laughter of children who had vanished without a trace. The old clock in the grand foyer told the hour, each chime a reminder of the time that had slipped through the fingers of those who once dwelled here. The master bedroom was a labyrinth of secrets, its grand four-poster bed draped in a heavy tapestry depicting scenes of prosperity and bliss, a stark contrast to the reality that unfolded behind its velvet curtains. The master of the house, a man known only as Mr. Watts, was a figure of mystery and power. His presence felt like a storm that could shatter the very foundations of the world. His wife, Mrs. Watts, was a woman of elegance and grace, her beauty a mirage that masked the coldness within her soul. Their children, the twin boys, were a pair of cherubs, their laughter a sweet poison that numbed the senses of those who dared to listen. Yet, as the clock struck midnight, the tranquility of the mansion was shattered by a sound so eerie it could only be the whisper of a specter. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and prosperity, was about to face a darkness that would cast a shadow over their lives forever. In the shadowed crevices of the sleepy town of Willow Creek, where the whispering leaves of ancient oaks danced with the golden hues of autumn, the Watts family resided in a house that seemed to hold secrets as deep as the roots that anchored it to the earth. The Wattses were an enigmatic lot, their lives shrouded in mystery and whispers of old, with a grandmother who had been born in the 1800s and a grandfather who was said to have fought in both world wars. The children, 3 of them, seemed to possess an otherworldly calm, often found gazing out over the sprawling backyard that was a canvas of wild flowers and untamed wilderness. But beneath this serene facade, the true nature of the Watts family was a tapestry of darkness, woven with threads of deceit and a history that whispered of tragedy. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawns, the tranquility of Willow Creek was shattered by a series of events that would leave the entire town in shock, and the Watts family eternally entangled in the chilling legend of the Willow Creek murders. In the quaint, sun-drenched town of Willowbrook, nestled between the whispering canyons and the sprawling meadows, the Watts family had always been a beacon of community spirit, their laughter echoing through the streets like the distant chimes of a lighthouse guiding ships through treacherous waters. The Watts residence, a grand colonial mansion with ivy-draped walls and a wraparound porch, was the cornerstone of the neighborhood, where every family event seemed to culminate. But as twilight settled over Willowbrook, casting an ethereal glow upon the tranquil town, a shadow loomed that would forever change the course of its history. On a seemingly ordinary evening, the family's warmth was shattered by a series of harrowing murders, each more grotesque than the last, leaving the town reeling in shock and disbelief. As detectives descended upon the scene, the once idyllic streets of Willowbrook were transformed into a labyrinth of secrets and lies, and the question of who could have committed such heinous acts weighed heavily upon the hearts of the surviving Watts siblings, each one grappling with their own demons, and the chilling realization that their peaceful existence had been shattered by a monster lurking in the shadows. In the shadowed alleys of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered tales of old, the Watts family resided in a grand, ivy-clad mansion that seemed to breathe with the history of generations. The air was thick with the scent of roses and the distant hum of the ocean, but beneath the tranquil facade, a storm brewed. It was a summer night when the moon hung low and silver, casting an eerie glow upon the Watts' doorstep, where a series of tragic events would unravel like a shroud of secrets, each thread more sinister than the last. The town had whispered of the Watts' wealth and their eccentricities, but few knew the true depth of their darkness. As the clock struck midnight, the silence was shattered by a sound that would change everything. A single, piercing scream that sliced through the night like a knife through butter, echoing through the streets and into the hearts of the sleeping townsfolk. In the shadowy, rain-slicked streets of the rundown Watts neighborhood, where the neon signs flickered feebly against the drizzle, the Watts family murders cast a chilling shadow over the community. It was a late autumn evening, the air crisp and biting as the city prepared for the impending winter, when the first of the tragedies unfolded. The family, known for their quiet and unassuming nature, had lived in the dilapidated brick house at the end of Maple Street for decades, a place that seemed to be a relic from a bygone era, untouched by the modern world's relentless march. That night, as the streetlights flickered to life, a neighbor heard the sound of a commotion echoing through the darkness, a cacophony of screams and cries for help that would echo in the minds of those who heard it for years to come. The once tranquil Watts neighborhood was now a scene of horror, where the lives of the family, including the patriarch, the matriarch, their 3 children, and a visiting relative, were violently snuffed out in a manner that was as mysterious as it was macabre. The police arrived to find a scene of unimaginable horror, with the bodies strewn about the house, blood pooling on the floorboards, and a sense of dread that seemed to seep from the very walls. The investigation that followed would unravel a web of secrets and lies, a tapestry of darkness that would leave the entire city on edge, questioning the safety of their own homes and the fragility of their lives. As the days turned into weeks, the story of the Watts family murders became the talk of the town, a chilling reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath the surface of even the most ordinary of lives. In the shadowy heart of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the dust that settled on their old wooden porch. The sun rose and set in a rhythmic dance, casting long shadows through the windows of their quaint cottage, and the laughter of children echoed through the cool, summer evenings. But beneath the veneer of idyllic domesticity, a storm brewed, a tempest of secrets and lies that would shatter the fragile peace of this once tranquil haven. The Watts family was a tapestry woven with threads of love, betrayal, and a darkness that lay dormant, waiting to be unleashed. As the days turned to weeks, and the weeks to months, the threads began to unravel, revealing a tale of greed, obsession, and a crime that would echo through the annals of history, haunting the souls of all who dared to unravel its chilling secrets. In the heart of the bustling metropolis, where the relentless hum of the city blended seamlessly with the eerie silence of a moonless night, the Watts family lived a life of unassuming prosperity. Their sprawling estate, nestled in the verdant embrace of the affluent neighborhood, was a sanctuary of tranquility, a place where laughter and love reigned supreme. The family comprised of the patriarch, Harold Watts, his wife, Eliza, and their 3 children, teenage Sarah, headstrong Jack, and young, imaginative Emily, led a charmed existence, shielded from the harsh realities that plagued the world outside their walls. The Watts home, a majestic Victorian manor with towering pillars and sprawling gardens, was the epitome of opulence, a testament to Harold's success in the tech industry. Yet, as the stars above began to twinkle with the promise of a new day, a dark shadow loomed over the Watts family, one that would shatter their serene existence and unravel the fabric of their lives forever. For in the dead of night, a brutal force would descend upon their haven, casting a shadow of despair and fear that would echo through the halls of history, leaving behind a chilling legacy known only as the Watts family murders. In the heart of the sleepy coastal town of Clearwater Bay, nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless roar of the ocean waves, the Watts family had been the epitome of suburban tranquility for generations. The old brick house, perched atop a hill, was a beacon of stability and comfort, a sanctuary where laughter echoed through the hallways and love flowed like the tides. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon one crisp autumn evening, a shadow cast itself over the Watts family home, and the idyllic facade crumbled into a horror that would shatter the very fabric of the community. It was a night when the silence of the sea was pierced by screams that seemed to echo through time, and the once peaceful Watts family became synonymous with the unimaginable. A family torn apart by a series of brutal and senseless murders that left the entire town in a state of shock and disbelief. The police arrived, their faces etched with determination, and the weight of a mystery that seemed to grow more complex with each passing hour. And as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the truth behind the Watts family murders was far more sinister and twisted than anyone could have ever imagined. A dark web of secrets and deceit that would forever change the lives of those who dared to unravel it. In the hushed twilight of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient pines, the Watts family resided in a grand, ivy-clad mansion that seemed to watch over the tranquil sea. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of waves crashing against the shore. Inside, the family thrived in an atmosphere of prosperity and warmth, with mirthful laughter echoing through the halls and the glow of family portraits adorning the walls. Yet, beneath the picture-perfect facade, a dark storm brewed, a tempest of tragedy that would shatter the town's serene facade. As night descended, the Watts world was forever altered when a series of chilling events unfolded, leaving the town in shock and the family in a living hell. The first bloodied footprint in the dew-kissed grass marked the beginning of a harrowing tale that would become etched into the annals of history, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the sinister underbelly that lurks in the shadows of even the most idyllic households. In the heart of a sun-drenched California town, where the golden beaches kissed the azure Pacific and the palm trees swayed in a gentle breeze, the Watts family lived a life of quiet prosperity, their home a beacon of warmth and comfort in the neighborhood. The family patriarch, a former Marine turned successful entrepreneur, had built his fortune through sheer determination and a knack for innovation, while his wife, a former schoolteacher, nurtured their 3 children with the wisdom of her gentle spirit. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, dark currents of suspicion and intrigue were churning, as secrets and lies lay hidden in the shadows of their seemingly perfect lives. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil streets, the Watts family's world was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever change the course of their lives and leave an indelible mark on the town's history. The night of the murders, a night that promised to be like any other, would become a haunting reminder of the fragility of human existence and the treacherous nature of the human heart. In the heart of a small, sleepy town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the Watts family had always been a beacon of normalcy and warmth. Their sprawling estate, a sprawling testament to their success and affluence, was a place of laughter and love, where the days were filled with the sound of children playing and the clinking of glasses at dinner parties. But on a cold, misty morning that seemed just like any other, the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by a scream that echoed through the quiet streets, a scream that would change the course of history. As the town awoke to the chilling news, they found themselves grappling with a mystery that was as dark as it was complex, a series of brutal murders that left them questioning everything they knew about the seemingly perfect Watts family. The town's residents, once united in their admiration for the Wattses, now found themselves divided, torn between fear and disbelief, as they tried to piece together the shattered remnants of the family's idyllic existence. The police, faced with a case that seemed to defy logic and reason, delved deeper into the lives of the Wattses, uncovering secrets and lies that would shake the very foundations of their community. And as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the true horror of the Watts family murders was not just the loss of innocent lives, but the revelation of a darkness that had been lurking in plain sight, a darkness that had been silently growing, like a cancer, within the walls of their once peaceful home. In the shadowed alleys of the sprawling metropolis, where the neon lights flickered like warnings of an impending storm, the Watts family lived in a house that whispered tales of its own. It was a modest home, nestled between towering skyscrapers that seemed to mock the quaint abode with their towering dominance. Inside, the Watts family, a close-knit trio of parents and their 3 children, reveled in the simplicity of their lives, unaware of the darkness that would soon envelop them. The father, a grizzled ex-Marine named Jack, worked tirelessly as a mechanic, his hands roughened by years of grease and grime, while his wife, Sarah, a gentle soul with a heart as vast as the ocean, nurtured their children with a love that knew no bounds. Their children, twins Emily and Ethan, and the youngest, Lily, were the embodiment of joy, their laughter echoing through the house like a melody that only the purest souls could hear. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, a strange unease began to creep into their lives, a sense that something was amiss, that the shadows outside were not as innocent as they appeared. Little did they know, the true horror was not what lurked in the streets, but what would unfold within the walls of their own home, a horror that would shatter their world and leave behind a legacy of sorrow and despair that would echo through the ages. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town where the salty sea breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family, a close-knit clan of 7, had been a beacon of tranquility for generations. Their sprawling estate, perched atop a cliff overlooking the tumultuous ocean, was a fortress of laughter and love, a sanctuary untouched by the outside world's chaos. However, on a chilling night when the moon was obscured by the clouds and the stormy sea roared like 1,000 angry beasts, a darkness descended upon the Watts compound, shattering the illusion of safety and peace. It was a night when the winds howled with a fury that seemed to echo the cries of the tormented souls within, and when the Watts family, in their oblivious bliss, would learn that the true monster was not the tempest outside, but the one that had lurked within their very own ranks, ready to strike with a fury that would leave the town forever shrouded in the shadow of its darkest secret. In the shadowy confines of the dilapidated Watts estate, nestled between the sprawling, untamed wilderness and the bustling urban sprawl of Los Angeles, the air was thick with the scent of decay, and the faint echo of whispers carried on the wind. The Watts family had long been whispered about in hushed tones, their name a byword for wealth, power, and perhaps madness. The mansion itself, a grand Gothic structure that seemed to loom over the neighborhood like a specter, had been the focal point of countless rumors and unspoken fears. It was said that within its walls, the line between the living and the dead blurred, and that the spirits of those who had once dwelled there still lingered, watching over the remnants of their once grand dynasty. The year was 1988, and the city was on edge as the first tremors of a storm that would shatter the illusion of normalcy began to ripple through the streets. As night fell, the mansion's ancient doors creaked open, revealing the twisted skeleton of a family whose secrets were about to be unearthed, and whose fate would become a haunting legend for generations to come. In the shrouded alleys of a once vibrant neighborhood, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and laughter, their laughter echoing through the halls like a melody lost to time. It was a place where children played hide and seek under the moonlit sky, where parents whispered secrets of love and life, and where every sunset was a celebration of life's fleeting beauty. But as the golden hues of dawn painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, a sinister shadow began to cast its ominous presence over the Watts home. The night of the murders was a symphony of terror, as the creaking floorboards beneath their feet seemed to moan with the weight of impending doom. The first to succumb was the matriarch, her eyes wide with shock as she realized the truth behind the laughter that had once filled her home. Her husband, a man known for his gentle demeanor and unwavering strength, followed in a silent wail of despair. The children, their innocence shattered by the sudden darkness, lay lifeless in their beds, their faces frozen in a last breath of innocence. The police arrived, their sirens a haunting reminder of the chaos that had unfolded, and the once lively Watts home stood now as a somber testament to the cruel hand of fate. The neighborhood was in shock, their once vibrant community now a ghost town of fear and sorrow, as they grappled with the chilling reality that no one is truly safe from the darkness that lurks just beyond the veil of normalcy. In the heart of a small, otherwise idyllic coastal town, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the sea breeze that caressed their quaint cottage. Each morning, the sun would rise, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters, and the family would begin their day with the same predictable rhythm. Grandfather Albert, with his silver beard and twinkling eyes, would read the morning paper while his wife, Eliza, busied herself in the kitchen, preparing the family's favorite breakfast. Their children, Sarah, a bright-eyed teenager, and young twins, Jamie and Emily, would run around the garden, their laughter echoing through the air. Life was a symphony of simple joys, a melody that played on repeat, a lullaby that promised endless days of contentment. But on a crisp autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn and the air grew colder, a shattering silence fell over the Watts family, a silence that would change everything forever. For that night, the town would never be the same, as the shadows of the past rose to claim their due, and the once peaceful Watts family would become entangled in a web of mystery, murder, and the chilling truth that sometimes the most innocent among us are the most vulnerable to the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface. In the heart of the sun-drenched city, where the whispering willows clung to the edges of a once tranquil pond, the Watts family resided in a grand estate that had seen better days. The mansion, a relic of a bygone era, stood like a silent sentinel guarding the secrets it had accumulated over generations. On a warm evening that felt distinctly ominous, the tranquility was shattered when a piercing scream shattered the night's silence, echoing through the streets like a banshee's cry. As dawn approached, the discovery of the Watts family's bodies, each in a state of shockingly graphic horror, left the city reeling and the police baffled. The police department, under the scrutiny of the media and public alike, delved into the lives of the Wattses, unearthing a web of secrets, betrayals, and a family history steeped in tragedy. Amidst the investigation, whispers of an ancient curse began to surface, fueling the fear that this was no ordinary crime, but something far darker and more sinister, a malevolent force that had been waiting for generations to strike once again. In the shadowed alleyways of the sprawling metropolis, where the neon lights flickered with an eerie glow, the Watts family lived a life that seemed ordinary on the surface, but beneath the veneer of domesticity, a storm brewed with the force of 1,000 thunderclaps. The matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a woman of stern resolve and unyielding optimism, had woven a tapestry of lies and secrets. Her husband, David, a man of quiet strength, often finding solace in the company of the night, while their children, a brood of 5, each harbored dreams that seemed as fragile as glass. Yet as the moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver sheen over the cityscape, a darkness crept in, uninvited, and in the dead of night, the Watts family's idyllic world shattered into 1,000 pieces, the sound of shattering glass echoing through the silent streets as the Grim Reaper's scythe cut a swathe through their lives, leaving behind a trail of shattered dreams and a haunting silence that would echo through the ages. A chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the sinister undercurrents that lurk beneath the surface of even the most tranquil of households. In the quaint, sun-dappled town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, the Watts family had been a beacon of warmth and normalcy for decades. The 3-story Victorian home, with its gingerbread trim and blooming rose bushes, had been the heart of their community, the place where laughter and love intertwined like the golden threads of a tapestry. But on a chilling morning in October, the tranquility was shattered by a silence that seemed to echo through the very soul of the town. The Watts family, once the epitome of suburban bliss, were now the victims of a heinous crime that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of everyone who knew them. The police arrived at the scene to find the bodies of the Watts, including the matriarch, the patriarch, and their 2 young children, sprawled across the floor of their living room, each surrounded by the cruel implements of their demise. The bloodstains, a macabre testament to the horror that unfolded, told a tale of unimaginable brutality. The townspeople, who had once felt a sense of safety and belonging within the Watts walls, now found themselves grappling with a darkness that seemed to seep from the very earth. The whispers of the night were filled with speculation, fear, and a haunting sense of dread, as the town of Willow Creek embarked on a harrowing journey to uncover the truth behind the Watts family murders. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between the whispering tides and the towering pines, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of tranquility and prosperity. Their sprawling estate, with its sprawling gardens and grand manor, was a beacon of opulence that seemed to glow with the warmth of their contentment. The Wattses, with their 4 children and their enigmatic patriarch, Mr. Watts, were the talk of the town, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of respect and admiration. Yet, on a moonless night shrouded in the mists of mystery, the idyllic facade of the Watts family was shattered into 1,000 pieces, as the town awoke to the chilling discovery of the most heinous crime in its history. The bloody bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, along with their 3 young children, were found in their opulent home, each one lying in a pool of their own lifeblood, their eyes wide with shock and horror. The town was thrown into a tailspin of fear and disbelief, as the once serene Watts estate became the focal point of a police investigation that would unravel the deepest secrets and darkest truths of the seemingly perfect family. The night of the murders had left behind a trail of questions that would consume the minds of the townsfolk, as they grappled with the reality that the monsters they had always feared were not lurking in the shadows, but had been living among them, hidden in plain sight. In the heart of a bustling metropolis where the neon lights danced like fireflies in the night, the Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to loom over the neighborhood like a silent sentinel. The mansion, a sprawling Gothic monstrosity, was a marvel of opulence, its marble floors polished to a mirror finish, and its walls adorned with priceless art and intricate tapestries. The family, known throughout the city for their vast wealth and influence, lived a life of splendor, their every desire catered to by an army of servants who toiled tirelessly to maintain the illusion of perfection. But beneath the grand facade, a darkness was brewing, a malevolent force that would shatter the illusion and plunge the Watts family into an abyss of horror and despair. It was a cold, crisp autumn evening when the first shadows began to stir, and the chilling whispers of the past that had long been buried resurfaced to claim their pound of flesh. The mansion, once a beacon of prosperity, would soon become a house of horrors, a place where laughter turned to screams and life ended in the most grotesque and sinister of fates. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between jagged cliffs and the relentless howl of the ocean, the Watts family had always been the embodiment of serene domesticity, their quaint cottage perched like a lighthouse sentinel over the tumultuous waves below. It was a picturesque idyll, the kind that painted postcards and adorned coffee table books, where children's laughter mingled with the rustling of the wind through the towering pines, and the scent of salt-kissed air filled the nostrils of all who wandered through their verdant garden. But beneath the serene facade, a dark storm brewed, an ominous cloud that loomed silently over the Watts family, unseen and unheard by those who passed by the quaint cottage with nary a hint of the impending tragedy. As twilight settled over the town, casting long shadows that danced with the flickering flames of the gas lamps, a chill began to seep into the atmosphere, a foreboding sense that something was amiss in the Watts household. Little did anyone suspect that the tranquility they had all come to cherish was about to shatter into a million pieces, leaving a trail of horror and heartbreak in its wake. In the heart of the sun-baked suburbs of Los Angeles, where the streets were paved with dreams and the air was thick with the scent of ambition, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the rust-colored tract homes that lined their street. The Watts, a close-knit clan of 6, had been there since the 1950s, their roots as deep as the avocado trees that dotted the neighborhood. It was a time when the city was young, brimming with the promise of a better life, and the Watts family was no exception. Grandfather George, a retired lap detective, was the patriarch, his stories of the force's golden age echoing through the halls of their modest home. His wife, Mabel, was the matriarch, her laughter a melody that seemed to warm the very bricks of their house. Their children, each named after a president, were the epitome of American dreams, smart, ambitious, and eager to make their mark on the world. Their children's children, the grandchildren, were the latest generation, the bridge between the old world and the new, each with their own aspirations and secrets. But on a sweltering summer night, when the sun dipped below the horizon and the city began to hum with the sounds of a million dreams, the Watts family's world would shatter in a way that would change everything. The night was calm, the stars twinkling like diamonds in the velvet sky, and the family was gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories and laughter, when suddenly the tranquility was shattered by the sound of shattering glass and the harsh ring of a police siren. It was a sound that no one in the Watts family had ever heard before, a sound that heralded the end of an era and the beginning of a nightmare that would consume them all. In the hushed, fog-shrouded town of Eldridge, where the streets whispered tales of old and the night sky painted the canvas of the unknown, the Watts family had always been the linchpin of community life. Their sprawling estate, a Gothic monstrosity of ivy-clad walls and towering spires, stood as a silent sentinel to the townsfolk, a symbol of wealth and power that few dared to challenge. But as the moon dipped lower and the town slumbered, a darkness crept into the heart of the Watts household, a darkness that would forever change the fabric of Eldridge. It was a night when the world seemed to hold its breath, when the shadows seemed to whisper secrets too terrible to comprehend, and when the Watts family, in their opulent sanctuary, became the unwilling players in a tragedy that would echo through the ages. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town nestled between rolling hills and the relentless roar of the Atlantic, the Watts family had long been a beacon of community tranquility, their sprawling estate a testament to prosperity and stability. But beneath the gilded facade of their opulent mansion, a dark undercurrent had been churning for years, a cauldron of resentment and deceit simmering just below the surface. It was on a stormy night, as the wind howled through the ancient oaks and the rain beat a relentless drum on the shingles, that the Watts' idyllic world shattered into 1,000 pieces. The night was as black as the soul of the town's most sinister resident, and it was then that the townsfolk awoke to the chilling sound of sirens and the sight of emergency vehicles racing to the scene of a tragedy so heinous it would echo through the annals of history. The Watts family murders, a name that would soon be synonymous with horror and dread, had begun. In the shadowed, fog-draped town of Eldridge, where the whispering wind carried tales of the past, the Watts family had always been a fixture, their sprawling mansion a beacon of prosperity amidst the modest homes of the locals. It was a place of laughter and warmth, where the scent of fresh-baked bread and the sound of a piano filled the air, creating an illusion of utopia. But beneath this facade of domestic bliss, a darkness was brewing, a storm that would shatter the lives of the Wattses and leave the town in shock. The night of the murders was a calm one, the moon hanging low and full, casting an eerie glow on the sprawling mansion. As the clock struck midnight, the Watts family sat down for dinner, unaware that their lives were about to be torn apart. The maitre d' entered the dining room with a tray of steaming dishes, his eyes catching the flicker of a shadow in the corner of the room. He turned, and there, standing in the doorway, was a figure cloaked in darkness, a silhouette that seemed to emanate an aura of malevolence. With a single, swift motion, the figure raised a blade, and the world as the Watts family knew it shattered into 1,000 pieces. In the heart of a quaint, sun-drenched coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea and the laughter of children echoed through the streets, the Watts family lived a life that seemed picture-perfect. The Wattses, a close-knit clan of 5, were known for their warm smiles, their generous hearts, and their unwavering commitment to each other. But beneath the facade of idyllic happiness, a dark storm brewed, one that would shatter the town's serene facade and leave behind a trail of devastation. On a seemingly ordinary evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil sea, the Watts family was torn apart by a series of chilling murders that would become the most infamous in the town's history. The townsfolk, once united in their admiration for the Wattses, now found themselves grappling with the harrowing truth that no family was immune to the shadows that lurked in the corners of their lives. As the investigation unfolded, the once peaceful town was plunged into a maelstrom of fear, suspicion, and heart-wrenching revelations, each more twisted a ND Chinese letter than the last. And the question that haunted everyone was not just who had committed these heinous acts, but why. In the heart of a quaint coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets of the sea, the Watts family lived in a grand Victorian mansion that stood as a beacon of prosperity and tranquility. The sun set daily upon their lives, casting long shadows over the sprawling gardens that were meticulously maintained by their loyal gardener, Mr. Finch. The Wattses, a family of 5, were known for their warm smiles and generous hearts, but beneath the surface of their idyllic existence, a storm brewed that would shatter the town's serene facade. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow upon the mansion's ivy-covered walls, the family gathered in the parlor, unaware that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. Little did they know that the night would be their last, as the town's most sinister secret would surface, and the Watts family would become synonymous with the unspeakable horror that unfolded in the shadows of their once peaceful home. In the shadowy streets of a desolate industrial town, where the fog rolled in like a ghostly shroud, the Watts family had long been the whispered subject of townsfolk's hushed speculation. The Watts residence, a sprawling Victorian mansion with peeling paint and a decrepit garden, stood like a relic of a bygone era, its windows boarded up, and the front door permanently sealed with a heavy, iron gate. It was there, within those decaying walls, that a chilling series of murders had taken place, leaving the local community in a state of perpetual dread. The town had spoken of it for decades, a story so macabre it was said to be the work of some sinister force, a vengeful specter that had chosen the Watts family as its prey. Now, as the story was about to unravel once more, a new chapter was written by a relentless investigator named Detective Harris, whose determination to uncover the truth would lead him down a treacherous path filled with unspoken secrets, dark revelations, and the chilling echoes of a past that refused to be forgotten. In the hushed, overcast town of Eldridge, where the whispering wind carried the scent of decay and the sun seemed to hold its breath, the Watts family resided in a sprawling, decrepit mansion that loomed like a specter over the neighborhood. The family, once pillars of the community, had dwindled to 3 members: the enigmatic matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, her stoic husband, Mr. Walter Watts, and their only child, the enigmatic young artist, Leela. It was said that the mansion itself was cursed, a haunting relic of the past, and many whispered that the Wattses were not merely trapped, but ensnared in an ancient and malevolent force. The townsfolk shied away from the shadowy residence, their imaginations alight with tales of eerie occurrences and unexplained noises that seemed to echo through the decaying walls. But on a chilling evening in late October, when the moon was obscured by a thick blanket of clouds, and the stars were too afraid to show their faces, the tranquility of Eldridge was shattered by a series of violent, senseless murders that left the town reeling in shock and horror. The Watts mansion, once a beacon of the past, became the site of a macabre spectacle, where the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel as the truth behind the family's dark secret slowly began to surface, a truth that would forever change the lives of those who dared to uncover it. In the shadowed alleys of a city where the neon lights danced a macabre ballet, The Watts family resided in a sprawling mansion that seemed to loom over the neighborhood like a silent sentinel. The mansion, with its towering columns and grand portico, was a relic of a bygone era, a place where whispers of old money and whispered tales of scandal clung to the air like a persistent fog. Inside, the Watts family thrived on the opulence of their surroundings, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of luxury and excess. Yet, beneath the gilded surface, a storm brewed, one that would shatter the illusion of their perfect existence. It began on a crisp autumn evening, when the first of the Watts family members vanished without a trace, leaving behind a labyrinth of secrets and a trail of blood that would forever stain the city's dark history. In the quaint, sun-drenched town of Maplewood, nestled amidst the whispering pines and the gentle hum of the meandering Maple Creek, the Watts family lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the dust motes floating lazily in the sunlight that filtered through their ancient oak windows. Each morning, the clatter of coffee cups and the laughter of children echoed through the halls, a melody that played on the wind like a lullaby to the weary world. Mrs. Evelyn Watts, a woman of grace and hospitality, would greet the day with a warm smile and a batch of freshly baked cinnamon rolls, her arms enveloping her husband, George, who was known for his dry wit and love of literature. Together, they raised 4 children: Emily, the artist; Ethan, the aspiring musician; Isabella, the dreamy bibliophile; and young Zachary, the impish mischief-maker. Life was a tapestry of moments, each thread woven with the threads of love and laughter. But in the twilight of a tranquil summer's eve, the tranquility of Maplewood was shattered as the world turned its dark gaze upon the Watts family, for what unfolded that night would become the stuff of nightmares, a tale etched into the annals of history and whispered among the trees like the secrets of the ancients. In the hushed stillness of a moonless night, the once tranquil Watts family mansion stood like a silent sentinel, its darkened windows reflecting the eerie glow of street lamps flickering in the distance. The mansion, a grandiose structure of stone and ivy, had been the beacon of prosperity and happiness for the Watts family for generations, a place where laughter and love seemed to never wane. But on this fateful night, as the stars peeked through the inky blackness, something sinister began to stir, and the mansion's tranquil facade would shatter into a symphony of horror. Inside, the gentle hum of the air conditioning was the only sound as the Watts siblings gathered in the grand library, their voices barely above a whisper as they exchanged hushed secrets and shared stories of old. Little did they know, the peace that had long enveloped their home was about to be shattered, and the laughter and love they cherished would soon be replaced by a cacophony of screams and the chilling echoes of their own terror. In the shadowed hollows of a desolate industrial estate, the Watts family resided in a modest brick house that stood as a silent sentinel against the encroaching night. The moon, a ghostly wanderer, cast its pale light through the dense canopy of oak trees that lined the street, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move and whisper secrets to the wind. Inside, the house was a warm cocoon of domesticity, where laughter and the clatter of dishes mingled with the soft hum of a television. But all that tranquility was about to shatter like glass under the relentless weight of impending tragedy. The year was 1985, and the world was turning a blind eye to the darkness that was about to consume the Watts family. For on this fateful night, their lives would be torn apart by a series of events that would leave an indelible mark on the history of a small, unsuspecting town. The family story began with the idyllic life of a father, a man named Robert Watts, whose love for his wife, Susan, and their 3 children, Jamie, aged 10, Emily, aged 8, and little Benjamin, who was just 5, was the cornerstone of their existence. Robert was a mechanic, a man who spent his days beneath the hoods of cars, his hands greasy and his heart full of dreams for a brighter future. Susan was a stay-at-home mother, her days filled with the mundane yet precious tasks of nurturing her children, teaching them the importance of kindness and the value of family. Jamie, the oldest, was a bright, curious boy with a penchant for adventure, while Emily, the middle child, was a tender soul who loved nothing more than to read and create art. Benjamin, the youngest, was a bundle of boundless energy, a little whirlwind of joy who never failed to bring a smile to his parents' faces. Their house was a sanctuary, a place where laughter and love flourished, where dreams were nurtured, and where life seemed to flow in perfect harmony. Yet, as the night grew longer and the shadows grew darker, a storm was brewing that would soon engulf the Watts family in an inferno of sorrow and despair. It was on this night that the world would learn of the Watts family murders, a tragedy that would rock the very foundation of their community and leave an indelible scar on the hearts of all who knew them. In the shadowy, fog-enshrouded streets of a small coastal town, the Watts family lived in a quaint, ivy-covered cottage that seemed to whisper secrets of yesteryear. The sun barely pierced the dense canopy of trees that bordered their property, casting an eerie glow on the peeling paint and weathered shingles. The family, consisting of the stoic patriarch George, his wife, Eliza, a woman of gentle demeanor and quiet strength, and their 3 children, teenage siblings, Sarah and Tom, and the youngest, little Emily, who was always seen with a mischievous grin, led a life that appeared as serene as the tranquil sea that lay just beyond their garden. But beneath the surface, a dark undercurrent of tension simmered, as the townsfolk whispered about George's mysterious business ventures and Eliza's increasingly erratic behavior. One stormy night, as the wind howled and the rain lashed against the windows, the Watts family's idyllic facade shattered, revealing a chilling truth that would forever change the course of their lives and leave an indelible mark on the town's history. In the shrouded twilight of a small, once peaceful town nestled among the whispering woods, the Watts family was a beacon of domestic tranquility. Their sprawling estate, with its sprawling gardens and grandiose mansion, was a testament to their affluence and their seemingly unassailable happiness. However, beneath the glossy surface of their seemingly idyllic lives, a storm brewed that would shatter the very fabric of their existence. On a night when the moon hung low and the stars were hidden behind a veil of fog, the Watts family was visited by an evil that transcended the boundaries of reason. As the moonlight cast eerie shadows across the grand hall, the youngest daughter, Eliza, heard a sound that made her heart skip a beat, a sound so terrifying that it sent shivers down her spine. The door to the adjacent room creaked open, and there, standing in the doorway, was the ghostly apparition of a figure clad in black, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Eliza's scream echoed through the mansion, reverberating off the high ceilings, and as she stumbled backwards, she watched in horror as the ghostly figure lunged towards her. The mansion, once a sanctuary of warmth and laughter, had become a place of unrelenting terror. As the night wore on, the Watts family was plunged into a living nightmare, each member falling prey to the unseen evil that had been lurking in the shadows of their lives. The whispers of the woods seemed to mock them, the moonlight now a sinister witness to the unfolding tragedy. The Watts family, once a beacon of domestic tranquility, was now synonymous with horror, their name forever etched into the annals of local folklore as the family whose peace was shattered by an evil that even the most fervent prayers could not dispel. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town, nestled between rolling hills and the relentless roar of the ocean, the Watts family lived a life of quiet desperation. Their sprawling Victorian mansion, a relic of bygone eras, stood like a sentinel guarding secrets that would soon shatter the community's serene facade. The head of the family, Robert Watts, a former naval officer turned successful businessman, was known for his stern demeanor and unyielding sense of duty. His wife, Eliza, a socialite with a penchant for charity, moved through the town's elite circles with a grace that belied the turmoil that brewed within their walls. Their children, the 4 Watts offspring, each with their own dreams and fears, were the unwitting pawns in a game of deceit and destruction that would unravel the very fabric of their existence. It was a warm summer evening, the sun dipping low in the sky, casting an amber glow over the town when the first of the murders struck. a chilling prelude to a nightmarish sequence of events that would leave the Watts family and the entire town forever altered. In the hushed and shadowed streets of the dilapidated Watts neighborhood, where the scent of stale rain and the rusted tang of decay clung to the air like a persistent fog, the Watts family murders cast a chilling shadow over the community. The night had been as uneventful as any other, save for the occasional wail of a distant siren, when a series of frantic calls shattered the nocturnal calm. The police arrived to find the once peaceful home of the Watts family in shambles, a scene of unimaginable horror. The bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Watts, along with their 3 young children, were strewn across the living room floor, each one a silent witness to a crime that would become the stuff of local legend. The police, seasoned veterans of the force, were at a loss to explain the motive or the identity of the killer. Amidst the chaos, whispers of dark omens and malevolent forces began to circulate, casting an even more sinister aura over the tragedy. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the Watts family had stumbled upon a secret that was far more dangerous than they ever could have imagined. A secret that would pit them against a malevolent force that had been lying dormant for decades. A force that now sought retribution in the most cruel and twisted of ways. In the heart of a sleepy coastal town, where the salty breeze whispered secrets to the ancient oaks, the Watts family lived in a sprawling, ivy-clad mansion that stood as a silent sentinel against the relentless march of time. The Wattses were known for their opulent lifestyle, their extravagant parties, and their uncanny ability to keep their lives shrouded in mystery. But on a moonless night, as the waves crashed against the shore with a ferocious roar, the mansion's iron gates clanged shut with a finality that would echo through the ages. Inside, the once vibrant household was now a silent tomb, its inhabitants reduced to lifeless husks, each one a victim of a horror that would become the stuff of nightmares. The townsfolk, who had always whispered about the Watts' dark secrets, now faced the grim reality that the mansion's dark facade was no mere illusion. It was the very heart of their terror, and the truth was far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. In the quaint, picturesque town of Willow Creek, nestled between the rolling hills and the whispering river, the Watts family lived a life of quiet contentment, their days filled with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. The sun would rise each morning, casting a warm, golden glow over the sprawling, ivy-covered mansion where they dwelled, its sprawling gardens a patchwork quilt of colors and fragrances. It was a place of secrets, laughter, and love, a sanctuary where the burdens of the outside world seemed to melt away. But on that fateful evening, as the first stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, the tranquility was shattered by a sound so terrifying it seemed to echo through the very soul of the earth. The gentle hum of the family's lives was replaced by a cacophony of horror, as the chilling screams of a child pierced the night, shattering the illusion of their idyllic existence. The townspeople, who had always believed the Watts to be a virtuous and well-respected family, would soon come to realize that the mansion harbored a darkness that no one could have imagined, a darkness that would cast a shadow over their lives, forever altering the fate of Willow Creek and its inhabitants. In the hushed, mist-shrouded town of Willow's End, where the whispering trees whispered secrets only the wind could understand, the Watts family had always been the cornerstone of the community, their laughter a melody that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the place. Their sprawling, ivy-covered mansion, with its grand front doors that never seemed to close, stood as a beacon of tranquility against the encroaching shadows of the surrounding woods. But as the autumn leaves turned to crimson and gold, the serene facade began to crack, revealing the dark undercurrents that had been quietly flowing beneath the surface. One crisp, moonlit night, as the silver crescent hung low in the sky, the silence was shattered by a series of screams that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. And with the first light of dawn, the Watts family mansion became a scene of horror and despair, the once vibrant lives of its inhabitants reduced to a tapestry of tragedy, their murders shrouded in mystery and whispered about in hushed tones, a haunting reminder that even in the most picturesque of settings, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to strike at the most unexpected moments. In the heart of the sun-drenched city, where the air shimmered with the heat of 1,000 summer days, the Watts family lived a life that seemed to pulse with the vibrant rhythm of their neighborhood. The Watts, a close-knit clan of 7, thrived in their modest bungalow, each member contributing to the tapestry of their family life in ways that were as unique as the stars in the night sky. The matriarch, Mrs. Evelyn Watts, was the bedrock of their existence, her laughter echoing through the halls and her wisdom guiding their every decision. Her husband, Mr. Walter Watts, was the breadwinner, a man who toiled tirelessly in the local factory, his strong arms and unwavering determination a testament to the American dream. Their children, a motley crew of 3 sons and 3 daughters, each with their own dreams and aspirations, were the embodiment of youthful energy and the promise of a bright future. Life was a series of daily triumphs and small victories, a symphony of shared moments that wove together the threads of their shared existence. Yet as the sun dipped below the horizon and the city lights began to twinkle, a dark storm was brewing that would shatter the idyllic existence of the Watts family, a storm that would leave behind a trail of tragedy and a community in shock. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy coastal town, the Watts family had always been a beacon of community harmony, their laughter echoing through the sun-drenched streets like a lullaby. But as the golden hues of sunset began to fade, a chilling silence descended upon the once serene neighborhood, for the town of Willow's End was about to be shrouded in a shroud of darkness. It was a tranquil Sunday evening when the first of the Watts children, a bright-eyed 10-year-old girl named Emily, vanished without a trace, her cheerful chatter replaced by a haunting silence that seemed to whisper secrets of the sinister. The townsfolk, once united in their admiration for the Watts family, found themselves torn apart by suspicion and fear as the police launched a relentless search. With each passing day, the mystery deepened, the once idyllic facade of Willow's End crumbling like the eroded cliffs that bordered the tranquil sea. The whispers grew louder, the rumors more sinister, as the townspeople grappled with the unimaginable. Their beloved Watts family, the embodiment of warmth and goodness, had become entangled in a web of tragedy and murder. The once vibrant streets were now a canvas of sorrow, the once cheerful homes now silent tombs, and the once tight-knit community now fractured by the shadow of the Watts family murders. In the heart of the bustling metropolis, where the neon lights danced a mesmerizing ballet against the night sky, the Watts family resided in a quaint, ivy-clad mansion that seemed to whisper secrets of old. The family, a blend of warmth and wealth, was known for their extravagant parties and the laughter that echoed through the halls. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the cityscape, a shadow loomed over the Watts mansion, a dark presence that would shatter the family's idyllic existence. The night of the murders began like any other, with the clinking of crystal and the soft hum of conversation. But as the clock struck midnight, a chilling silence fell, and the mansion transformed into a scene of horror and despair, where the lives of the Watts family were cruelly snuffed out, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a city forever haunted by the spectral whispers of the Watts family murders. In the heart of the sprawling metropolis, where the towering skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the streets hummed with the relentless pulse of a million dreams, the Watts family lived in a secluded mansion shrouded in shadows.